Your grandmother had 3 strokes last month, but she doesn't know it yet. Neither does her doctor. While everyone watches for dramatic collapse, the real killers slip past completely unnoticed, leaving seniors walking around with ticking time bombs in their brains. Your brain just had a stroke, but nobody knows. Not you, not your doctor, not even your worried family members checking in every Sunday. The damage happened while you were grocery shopping or watching the evening news. Maybe you felt a tiny bit dizzy for 30 seconds. Perhaps your vision got slightly blurry while reading the newspaper. You shrugged it off and kept going with your day. Welcome to the sneaky world of silent strokes. These brain attacks happen without the dramatic collapse you see in movies. No ambulance sirens, no rush to the emergency room, just quiet damage happening inside your head while life continues as normal. Here's what makes this truly alarming. About 1 in 4 adults over 80 have already experienced a silent stroke. That's millions of seniors walking around with brain damage they don't even know exists. Makes sense why doctors are calling this a hidden epidemic, right? Silent strokes are actually more common than the obvious ones that land people in hospitals. While regular strokes announce themselves with slurred speech, face drooping, and arm weakness, silent strokes whisper their presence through symptoms so mild that most people blame them on getting older, poor sleep, or stress. Well, here's the catch. These minor episodes are anything but harmless. Each silent stroke kills brain cells permanently. The damage accumulates like invisible scratches on a car windshield, barely noticeable at first, but eventually affecting your ability to see clearly. Most seniors discover they've had silent strokes completely by accident. They go in for an MRI because of headaches, or their doctor wants to check something unrelated. Suddenly, the scan reveals small areas of dead brain tissue. Surprise! Your brain has been under attack and you missed all the warning signs. But why are these strokes so incredibly sneaky? The brain is remarkably good at working around damaged areas, especially when the damage happens gradually. Other parts compensate for the injured sections. Your brain essentially covers for itself, masking the problem until the damage becomes too widespread to hide. And the weird part is, silent strokes often target areas of the brain that don't control obvious functions like speech or movement. Instead, they hit regions responsible for decision-making, memory processing, and emotional regulation. This explains why some seniors suddenly struggle with tasks they've done for decades, like balancing a checkbook or following a familiar recipe. The medical community didn't even have a name for silent strokes until recently. Doctors kept finding these mysterious brain lesions during routine scans, but couldn't connect them to specific symptoms. Now we know these silent episodes are major players in cognitive decline and future stroke risk. Then there's the timing issue. Unlike obvious strokes that demand immediate attention, silent strokes can happen days, weeks, or even months before anyone notices something's wrong. The trail goes cold, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint when the damage occurred. What makes silent strokes particularly dangerous isn't just the immediate damage they cause. Each episode increases your risk of having a full-blown, life-changing stroke later. But recognizing the subtle warning signs, that's where things get tricky, and exactly what we need to talk about next. You know what's really frustrating? These silent strokes are basically ninjas of the medical world. They sneak in, do their damage, and disappear without anyone noticing. Most seniors walk around completely unaware that their brain just took a hit. Here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Symptoms can last literally seconds. Your hand goes numb for 10 seconds and you think weird, must have slept funny. But that 10-second episode, that might have been your brain losing blood flow. The symptoms are so mild that people blame everything except what's actually happening. Common signs include sudden numbness that comes and goes, blurry vision that clears up quickly, random dizziness, or headaches that feel different from usual ones. But here's where it gets tricky. These symptoms sound like normal aging complaints, right? That's exactly why they're so dangerous. Well, there are some sneakier signs that really catch people off guard. Suddenly getting lost in places you've known for decades. Making decisions becomes weirdly harder, like standing in the grocery store, unable to choose between 2 cereals you've bought 1,000 times. Your brain just feels foggy. And the mood changes, those hit hard. People develop sudden depression or irritability that seems to come from nowhere. Family members notice grandma or grandpa acting different, but everyone assumes it's just stress or getting older. Makes sense, right? Nobody's first thought is silent brain damage. Let's not forget how easy it is to dismiss these warning signs. Your vision gets blurry for 30 seconds while reading the newspaper. What do? You clean your glasses and move on. That moment of confusion trying to remember your neighbor's name, you laugh it off as a senior moment. But why are these episodes so brief and mild? Silent strokes typically affect smaller blood vessels in the brain. The damage happens in tiny areas that don't control major functions like speech or movement. It's like having a power outage in your basement instead of your whole house. You notice something's off, but life goes on. The really sneaky part is how these symptoms mimic other age-related issues. Arthritis causes numbness. Blood pressure medications cause dizziness. Stress causes headaches. Even doctors sometimes miss the connection because the symptoms are so common and seemingly harmless. Here's what's particularly cruel about silent strokes. They're testing the waters. Each episode is your brain's way of saying, "Houston, we have a problem," but the message is delivered in whispers instead of shouts. Most people need dramatic, unmistakable symptoms before they take action. And the weird part is how quickly people adapt. After a few episodes of mild confusion or brief numbness, it becomes the new normal. The brain is incredibly good at working around damage, which sounds great until you realize it's also masking a serious problem that's getting worse. This adaptability might seem like a blessing, but it's actually setting seniors up for much bigger problems down the road. When multiple silent strokes start adding up, that's when the real consequences begin to show. You know what's really unsettling? Most seniors living with the aftermath of silent strokes have no idea what hit them. They blame getting older for their struggles. "I'm just not as sharp as I used to be," they'll say, brushing off memory lapses that actually signal something far more serious. Here's where things get complicated. Silent strokes pile up like invisible scars on the brain. One silent stroke might barely register, but 2, 3, or 4. That's when the real trouble starts brewing. Memory becomes unreliable first. Seniors find themselves struggling to remember appointments they've kept for years. Following conversations gets harder. Then there's the focus problem. Reading a book or watching TV becomes frustrating because their attention keeps drifting away. Makes sense, right? Brain tissue that's been damaged can't process information the same way anymore. But wait, there's more. And the weird part is, many families mistake these changes for normal aging. They're not. Silent strokes dramatically increase the chances of having a major life-changing stroke later. We're talking about a 30% higher risk. That's like rolling dice with your future independence. Walking becomes trickier too. Balance gets shaky. Falls happen more often, sometimes leading to broken bones or worse injuries. What started as invisible brain damage suddenly becomes very visible physical problems. The connection isn't always obvious though. Doctors treating a broken hip might never realize silent strokes contributed to the fall that caused it. Let's not forget the cognitive spiral that can develop. Multiple silent strokes can trigger vascular dementia, a condition where thinking skills deteriorate because blood flow to the brain has been repeatedly interrupted. Unlike Alzheimer's, vascular dementia often progresses in steps, getting worse after each new stroke event. Then there's the daily living challenge. Managing finances becomes overwhelming. Cooking safety becomes questionable. Seniors might forget they left something on the stove or struggle to follow familiar recipes. Driving decisions get harder to make. These aren't character flaws or stubbornness. They're direct results of brain damage accumulating over time. Well, here's something that might surprise you. Research shows that people with silent strokes often experience personality changes too. A cheerful grandmother might become unusually irritable. A calm grandfather might develop anxiety he's never had before. These mood shifts happen because strokes can damage areas of the brain that regulate emotions. The scary truth? Most families don't connect these dots until something dramatic happens. A major stroke, a serious fall, a dangerous driving incident. Only then do doctors order brain scans that reveal the silent damage that's been building for months or years. Independence slowly erodes. What used to be automatic, like managing medications or paying bills, requires help from others. Pride takes a hit. Confidence wavers. Quality of life changes in ways that could have been prevented. But here's what gives me hope about all this mess. Silent strokes aren't completely inevitable, and the damage doesn't have to keep getting worse. Understanding who's most vulnerable to these sneaky brain attacks changes everything about prevention. Who's walking around with a ticking time bomb in their brain? Well, turns out it might be your neighbor, your spouse, or even you. High blood pressure sits at the top of this dangerous list like an uninvited guest who refuses to leave. When your blood pressure stays elevated, it's basically sandblasting the inside of your blood vessels every single day. Those tiny brain arteries can't handle that kind of beating forever. Diabetes makes everything worse. Think of it as adding sugar to the gas tank of your circulatory system. High blood sugar damages blood vessel walls, making them stiff and narrow. Your brain needs a steady flow of clean blood, but diabetes turns that highway into a bumpy dirt road. Then there's high cholesterol, which builds up like grease in a kitchen drain. Over time, those arteries get so clogged that even a small clot can shut down blood flow completely. Heart problems create their own special kind of chaos. Irregular heartbeats can form clots that shoot straight to the brain like tiny missiles. Heart disease means your pump isn't working efficiently, so some brain areas might not get enough oxygen, even on a good day. It's like trying to water a garden with a broken sprinkler system. But here's where it gets personal. Smoking is like setting your blood vessels on fire from the inside. Every cigarette damages the lining of your arteries and makes your blood stickier. Quitting at any age helps. But the damage from decades of smoking doesn't just disappear overnight. Physical inactivity turns your circulatory system into a lazy river instead of a rushing stream. Blood moves slower, clots form easier, and your brain suffers the consequences. Being overweight puts extra pressure on everything. Your heart works harder, your blood pressure climbs, and inflammation increases throughout your body. It's like forcing your car to pull a trailer up a mountain every single day. Then there's family history, which you can't exactly return to the store for a refund. If stroke or dementia runs in your family, your genetic deck might be stacked against you. That doesn't mean you're doomed, but it does mean you need to play your cards more carefully than someone with better genetics. Poor diet acts like slow poison. Too much salt drives up blood pressure. Too much sugar feeds diabetes. Not enough fruits and vegetables means missing out on protective nutrients that keep blood vessels healthy. And the weird part is, many seniors think they're eating fine when they're actually slowly damaging their brains with every meal. Not managing existing health conditions almost doubles your stroke risk. Skipping medications, ignoring doctor visits, or pretending problems will fix themselves creates the perfect storm for silent brain damage. Your brain doesn't care about your excuses when it's starving for oxygen. Makes sense why some people seem to collect silent strokes like unfortunate souvenirs, right? But knowing your risk factors is only half the battle. The real question becomes what you can actually do about it before permanent damage sets in. Regular checkups become your first line of defense against silent strokes. Think about it, you change the oil in your car every few thousand miles, but when's the last time you had your blood pressure checked? Blood pressure control isn't just important, it's absolutely critical. High blood pressure damages tiny blood vessels in your brain, making silent strokes almost inevitable if left untreated. Here's what most doctors won't tell you up front. Catching silent strokes early through brain scans can be a game changer. Well, not every senior needs an MRI, but if you're experiencing those subtle warning signs we talked about earlier, push for imaging. These scans reveal damage that might otherwise go unnoticed for years. Early detection means early intervention, and that can prevent much bigger problems down the road. Let's not forget the power of movement. Just 30 minutes of daily activity, and we're talking walking, not marathon running, can slash your stroke risk dramatically. The brain loves blood flow, and exercise delivers exactly that. Swimming, gardening, even dancing in your living room counts. Your brain doesn't care if you look silly, it just wants that oxygen-rich blood flowing. But here's where it gets interesting. Diet plays a massive role that most people underestimate. Mediterranean-style eating, lots of fish, vegetables, and olive oil, can reduce stroke risk by up to 40%. That's better than some medications. Cut back on processed foods and excess salt. Your taste buds might complain for a week, but your brain will thank you for decades. Then there's the stress factor everyone ignores. Chronic stress literally changes your brain chemistry and increases stroke risk. Managing mental health isn't just about feeling good. It's about protecting your brain's physical structure. Whether that's meditation, talking to friends, or finding a hobby that brings joy, stress management is brain protection. And the weird part is how many families miss the obvious warning signs. Never ignore sudden memory changes, unexplained mood shifts, or new confusion. These aren't just getting older. They might be your brain crying for help. One day, someone's sharp as a tack, the next they're struggling with simple decisions. That's not normal aging, that's potentially treatable brain damage. Managing existing health conditions becomes non-negotiable. Diabetes, high cholesterol, heart problems, these aren't separate issues. They're all connected to brain health. Take medications as prescribed, monitor blood sugar religiously, and treat every health condition like it directly affects your brain, because it does. Makes sense, right? Prevention isn't glamorous, but it works. The seniors who stay mentally sharp into their 90s aren't just lucky, they're usually the ones who took these steps seriously in their 60s and 70s. Family involvement can make all the difference too. Sometimes it takes a loved one to notice subtle changes or encourage healthy habits. Create accountability systems that work for everyone. Your brain has carried you through decades of life experiences. Now it's time to return the favor with intentional, consistent care that protects against silent damage.